At the end of the day, you need to look at your own analytics, right? Because what works for one industry or one company may not work for another company.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode in the Den. Today I am joined with Kyrus Westcott. Say hi, Kyrus.
What's going on, everybody? Hi.
We are going to be talking today about common mistakes made on social media. But before we get into it, Kyrus, I think that people need to know because they've seen you before. If they haven't seen you, they're not on TikTok. That's for sure.
That's true.
But you are so much more than just our social media guru.
Yeah.
You are an actor. You are an influencer. You have your own podcast and so much more. So why don't you tell people a little bit about who Kyrus really is?
Yeah, sure. Well, first and foremost, Kyrus does not sleep ever. It's not a thing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I just want to make people smile in any way possible, any medium that I have the opportunity to take advantage of. If I can make somebody's day better, if I can make somebody smile, if I can educate somebody with something, whether it's through a podcast, a blog, through my Patreon, through TikTok, Instagram, whatever it may be, I want to make somebody's day just a little bit better. And I just literally use my time to do that for people.
And it's awesome. I can tell you, I was on TikTok this morning, and there are people using your voice, your
I
original
know.
audio.
It's so weird,
isn't it?
It's really weird to be scrolling through and some random person from Nebraska is using my voice.
I was like, wait, I recognize that voice, and I had to look down, and I'm like, there he is.
Yeah, it's very awkward and weird, but I love it.
Well,
cool.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that.
Thank you.
So let's get into social media. You work with pretty well much every client that walks through these doors. You're part of the onboarding. You get the opportunity to meet our clients and work on their strategies. And there's a lot of times where we can see common mistakes that happen again and again and again. And it's usually the same types of mistakes. So let's kind of go through, what is your number one mistake that you see?
Absolutely. Number one, out of everything that could possibly come through our doors that I see, there's no retargeting going at all. There is no funnel. There is no Facebook pixel installed on the website or whatever platform that they're using. There's no kind of tracking or retargeting going on. So a lot of times when they come into our building, they say, hey, you know what? I don't know if I want to do social media because we've tried it before. It never really got us anything. So we just want to put more money towards something else. And the first thing that I always ask is, I say, okay, well, I don't see a Facebook pixel on your website. How are you retargeting? And most of the time, they may not even know what that means. And
so let's pause for a minute and let people know, because you're right. The audience may not know what retargeting is. With retargeting, you get the opportunity to capture the people who are actually visiting your Facebook page and then serve them up additional advertisements and creatives that help remind them who you are and what you do. Now, I know when you're talking to clients, you kind of explain it a little bit different. So you want to kind of butter that up and make that sound really nice.
Absolutely.
For
no, you did a pretty good job, though. I like it. You're hired.
Okay.
Ultimately, if you've ever been on a website and then you leave it and then all of a sudden you start seeing ads for that website wherever you go, well, that's what we do. That's what a lot of people are missing. So at the end of the day, you want to be able to turn that cold audience into a warm audience. On social media, unlike PPC or Google or anything like that, where you can target people that are actively searching for that service, on Facebook, you are paying for the impression. So it's going to be put in front of people no matter what. So you want to make sure that you're utilizing your budget to the best of your best way possible, because otherwise it's going to go to random people. So you want to put it in front of a warm audience because they're going to be the ones most likely to convert.
So with this retargeting, you now get the opportunity to put your face, put your name, put your brand back in front of people that have already engaged with your content.
Absolutely.
So it's a no-brainer.
So
I can see why that's so infuriating when there's no pixel installed and they have no way of tracking that. You're just leaving so much on the table.
Yes, a lot of wasted money.
Well, I know this is on your list, and it's definitely on mine too, because I hear this all the time. We have clients come in the door and they want to be everywhere, right? They want to be on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest. They just want to be everywhere. And a lot of times they try to do the same thing on all the platforms. Tell me a little bit about that type of mistake that you see.
100%. So another big thing that I see quite often is people want to hit that home run right off the bat. They want to get on every platform. They want to have hundreds of thousands of followers on each of the platforms. What you really need to be doing is focusing on one, maybe two, right? Grow those. And what you can do is once you reach a certain point with those platforms, you can use those to grow your other platforms. So if you know that your team likes to utilize Facebook and Instagram, Focus on those two first. Grow up your audience on your Facebook page or your Instagram profile, whatever it may be. And then from there, if you're like, you know what, I want to get a Twitter account too, you can start using your Instagram and your Facebook to promote your Twitter. And then that way your audience will just kind of follow you along and it'll grow from there. Sometimes I see a lot of people spread themselves too thin,
right.
and they get very disappointed when they're not seeing growth from all over. You have to be patient with your growth.
And I also think the audience, even though like Facebook and Instagram, everyone says, oh, the audience is very similar, but it's not. And we know that, right? we know there's different demographics, there's different ages that are interacting with these. And it's the same thing with Twitter, right? You are more of a Twitter person than me, right?
Yes, I love
and
it.
I can admit that. I don't. For some reason, it just does not, it doesn't catch my attention. But there's an audience there. So I think when you also take the time to focus on one or two platforms at a time, you can really start to learn what your audience is doing, who your audience is within that platform.
100%. I think it's really important that people understand that you can't just put this one thing. I think what you're alluding to is that you can't just put one thing on Facebook and then put the same thing on Instagram or then on LinkedIn and then on Twitter and then expect the same results. There's different audiences on each of those platforms. They all have different goals. So you need to keep that in mind. And when you're able to focus on one, maybe two platforms at a time, perfect that. And then it'll make it easier when you're focusing on the other platforms to say, okay, this is what worked here. What can I take from this and apply here? What can I take from the platform itself and grow from there?
Right. Yeah. For me, Twitter is more about news, right?
Yes,
so if I'm
it's
gonna
about the right now.
Yeah. So that there's no reason to put a bunch of creative and kind of get fun and stuff on Twitter when you know that people are spending their time going to Twitter because they want to know what's happening right now.
Yes, they want the right now and they want it fast. That's why there's character limits on your tweets. They want it, boom, as quick as possible.
Well, what are some of the other mistakes that you see coming through the door?
Yeah, so one of the main questions that people will ask is how many times should I be posting in general, right? And you can go on websites and blogs and they'll say you should post this many times and you should post at 9 o'clock on a Monday because Facebook is, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, you need to look at your own analytics, right? Because what works for one industry or one company may not work for another company, right? So you can take these broad benchmarks here, but you really need to see, okay, my audience is mainly on maybe at 2 o'clock. So let's focus on that. Let's focus on the 2 o'clock. On top of that, what I see a lot of people do is post things that aren't going to grow their business at all, right? So they're focusing on the sale, which is fine, but what are you giving the audience? Why are you just throwing things at their face? You want to give them some value, right? Are you promoting your culture at your job? What are you doing to stand out from the rest? Because when you're scrolling through the feed, you're competing with everything, competing with other ads, other companies, other personal profiles. You got to make yourself stand out from the rest.
So you can't just post for the sake of saying, hey, I got 4 posts out, this
I'd rather
week, or 5
people
posts.
post one really good post a week than 5 posts every day.
Well, that kind of leads into another mistake that we see all the time, which is either poor CTAs or no CTA at all. And for those of you who don't know, we're talking about call to action. When you put that post out on social media, you have to tell people what you want them to do, right? You have to lead them to the water.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's confusing. Like you see this post and maybe it's a great creative, but you're like, what do they want me to do?
Yeah.
Do they want me to call? Do they want me to buy something? Where am I going? What am I doing? So what are some of the things that you see with poor call to actions or no call to action at all that you think that, business owners should be considering?
Yeah, you need to guide your audience to where you want them to go. You have to tell them what you expect them to do. Otherwise, you shouldn't assume that they know what they're doing, right? So if you want phone calls, if you put out an ad or organic post, whatever it may be, make it clear that you want them to call you, right? Make that big, loud, and clear. On top of that, do not throw in 17 different call to actions. You don't have to put in your email address and your phone number and your fax number and all of this other things. Focus on one thing at a time with social media because people are going to be looking at it real quick. You need to make it clear what you want them to do.
It's funny you threw fax out there. I can't believe we're still talking about fax numbers, but hey, it's legit.
Yes.
And I still have clients that send me printed off copies with notes and they fax it and send it over and these are the changes.
My mom still pays all her bills with checks, and she mails it in. I'm like, Ma, you can do this. Mom, if you're watching this, you can pay online. It's a lot easier, I promise you. You can trust them. It's okay.
I don't even have checks. So, all right. Well, one of the other issues that we see all the time has to do with low resolution imagery. And this is one of those things it can be confusing because while you do want to have good resolution photos, it also is possible to get that with your iPhone. Not everything has to be a professional shoot. Not everything requires, someone to come out to your location. But it is important that the quality of those images are out there.
Yes.
What kind of advice do you have for people who are really struggling with poor imagery and just really bad creative?
Right. And we're going to get into this later, but you want to make sure that you explain to your audience their desired result, right? So if let's just say you are a remodeling company and you want to show a picture of the work that you've done, it would be better for you to show a clear, crisp photo of the work pretty much completed, if not done already, as opposed to the construction process. Let people see what the desired result is. You can take it with your iPhone. You don't have to order a whole professional service, even though we do offer that if you need it. You don't have to do all that. Just take a very clear picture. If you're looking at it and you say to yourself, I don't know if I would, send this to somebody to show our work off. If you wouldn't send it to somebody via text, what makes you think that you would want to send it, to millions of people around the world?
Right, absolutely. Well, now let's get a little bit into the nitty gritty, because I know a lot of times we spend a lot of the onboarding really kind of explaining the funnel and audience creation. And for a lot of people, it's hard for them to understand the amount of work and effort that goes into creating those. So let's share a little bit about what you see there and kind of the process that we go through to really help clients get the footing off when it comes to social.
Sure. It's at the end of the day, patience, right? You have to build your audience. When you build your audience, it's going to be a lot easier for you to remarket back to them. Social media takes time to grow, especially if you're a longer funnel client, or a longer funnel business. If you are a service company where people might see the ad online, right, wherever it may be, they may not need a new roof right now, but they might need it 3-4 months from now, right? That's going to take time to kind of grow that audience in there, right? If you're a t-shirt company and you can just sell it right off the bat, then obviously the funnel is shorter. But you need to stay patient with all of this. You need to have top, middle, bottom funnels. The same thing that you would do with any other type of marketing, you need to make sure you're doing with social media. It's not as immediate as people think it is. Obviously, you have things that just kind of take off, which is great, right? But it's not a guarantee. You need to make sure you let this I always say you need to finesse the audience, right?
Absolutely.
You need to let them just work their way through. They'll be there if you continue to stay consistent.
I use a Anet analogy, right? So I look at the top of the funnel as you're really casting that wide net, right? You might be casting your net into a pool of 50,000 fish, right? And you want to be able to see what you can reel in and what you can get. And the further down the funnel you get, the smaller that net gets, but also that's because you're working with a smaller pool. And now you may be working at the bottom of the funnel with 5,000, or 10,000 people that are truly interested. And that's when you're really going to hit them with those call to actions. But in order to get there and be able to take out of 50,000, 150,000, 200,000 fish, you have to be able to work through that funnel and make that net smaller and smaller as you go down, so that eventually you're literally just casting right into who is going to be your core audience.
Yes, and here's the even greatest thing out of all of that. When you start to see leads coming in, you can optimize that to find other people that are similar to them, right? So when you have qualified leads coming in through social media, the social media platforms know that you're getting qualified leads, right? So you can say, hey, here's a group of people that really worked for us. They became clients. They're very good customers for us. Find other people that are just like them. So that way you don't have to worry about, okay, my demographic is this, or I think I need to target people that are interested in this. You can let the platforms do some of the work for you, especially if you're really, really busy, or you don't have time, or you don't have one SEO to doing it for you. You can let the platforms themselves do the hard work for you.
Absolutely. One of the things, and I think I did, it was either a story or a reel on this, because a lot of times I don't think people realize how important it is to pay attention to your core audience and the niches within inside that audience. And I think that as you are looking at your social media and you're looking at your audience and you're working with agencies on building those out, you really need to kind of take into consideration how far you can break down that core audience and get intricate. Because as I'm going through social media, the things that are going to catch my attention, while we do have a lot in common, there are things that are
Yeah.
going to catch my attention that aren't going to catch yours, and
Absolutely.
vice versa. If it comes to pop culture and things like that, they might grab us both, and we might be excited. But when it comes to our personal beliefs or things that really interest us, we're obviously not wearing the same type of clothing. We
Right.
obviously don't, have the same in-home needs and
Yeah.
things like that. So really being able to break that down, I think that's a piece we see a lot of clients missing.
Absolutely.
Part of that comes to budget too. And this is a conversation we've had because they don't want to invest a lot into social media. So when you look at, say, if I have a $500 budget or a $1,000
Yeah.
budget, I'm not going to be able to break that audience down as nitty gritty as we would like to.
Right.
When you actually have a larger budget to play with, then you can really start to fine tune the messaging.
Yeah, what it really comes down to is setting the expectation, right? So let's just say you do only want to spend $100, right? Okay, we know right off the bat you're probably not going to get leads right off the bat with that $100. What can you get out of it? Okay, well, I can send traffic to the website. So that if you're spending money on the Google side of things, okay, now you're entered into Google's funnel, right? You can fine tune everything that you want from an audience perspective. You tell your platforms everything that they need to know without you even realizing it. If you watch a video, as you're scrolling through, if you watch a video for 3 seconds, I'm going to know that.
Yep.
If you watch it for the whole way through, I'm going to know that. I'm going to know, okay, I want to target people that watch this thing all the way through because I know that they didn't accidentally watch it and they're going to be more interested in what I have to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point with that $100, setting the expectation is great because it's not that you can't add value with that $100.
Yeah.
It's just that value is going to look different.
Yes.
And we talked about remarketing and retargeting. Well, with that $100 sending people to the website, now Google has the ability to remarket to them, which then in turn helps that Google funnel and allows your PPC to perform well. So they do work hand in hand with one another.
Absolutely. The PPC team and the social media team here really work together a lot because when they see success, we see success and vice versa. So we're always working hand in hand for sure.
Well, before we get into the final roar, and I let you leave the audience with your core tips here, something that happened just when I was pulling into the office earlier today, and I just wanted to pick your brain about it. So I literally pulled in, and we talk about Google and Facebook and how much they listen to us and pay attention. One of our employees is wearing a Sherwin-Williams shirt today and was outside walking, right? I just mentally started the jingle in my head, right, for Sherwin-Williams. I got into my office, sat down in my computer. The first email in my inbox was a Sherwin-Williams ad. Do you believe that they can read our minds?
No, I don't think they can read our minds. However, we can explain maybe why that happened. Like say if we're sitting here talking about Six Flags Great Adventure, right? And I visited Six Flags Great Adventure's website. Since all of our phones are being tracked, really, Facebook knows that both of us are in the same vicinity right now. Facebook is just going to assume, okay, maybe Kai and CJ were talking about Six Flags, perhaps, because they're in the same area right now, and Kai just visited their page or maybe the actual location. Let's maybe push a Six Flag ad over there. It might help CJ become a thing like that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think they're listening, but they're listening, just not in the way that we think.
Well, I'm curious to hear what the audience has to say. If you think they're reading our minds, because I did not sing the jingle out loud, did not. But that email was in my inbox. And I forgot, that's part of your resume too, roller coaster rider.
Yes. I'm actually going to be at an event at Six Flags. I got invited to an event for some influencers in a couple weeks, so I'm excited for that.
That's awesome. I can't wait to watch the footage that you put out on that. Well, let's go ahead and leave the audience with your final roar. So what are your biggest tips that you want to leave our audience with today when it comes to social media mistakes?
I can't stress this enough. Be patient. You have to be patient with social media. A lot of people think that social media, once you run an ad or put out something, that it's going to be immediate. And sometimes it is, yes. But if you want to play the long game, you need to be patient. I see a lot of people give up. After maybe a month. You're not going to be successful in 1 month, especially if you're in a longer funnel type of industry. Stay patient, stay on top of your analytics, make adjustments when necessary, and you're going to be fine. You're going to find success no matter what. I can promise you that.
Temperatures are high right now. We're seeing it. We're talking to our clients on a daily basis. one of the things that we know from the pandemic and the beginning of the pandemic and what we've been through over the last couple of years is that marketing is crucial during this time period. It truly is. Like Kai said, do not give up on the marketing that you're doing. Just work really closely with the agency or the strategists that are on your team to make sure that you're hitting the right audience, that you have the right messaging, and that you're doing the right things. There's always room to improve. The one thing that you don't want to do is walk away from where your audience is, because we know that they're there.
Yes, they are. They're waiting for you.
They're definitely waiting. Thank you so much for joining us today. Kai, thank you for being with me.
Thank you.
And look forward to next time.